Yo! What's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarus.
This is the Spoiler Chat. Full-on spoilers. We're going to talk about everything for Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings. My name's Nerdy. I already said that. We get nerdy nightly.
And we thought we'd share it with you.
That is right. Welcome back to another spoiler chat here on the channel. This time for Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings. And we liked this movie a lot.
Yes.
If you saw our non-spoiler review, we really liked it. If you didn't watch that one, you're like, I saw the movie, don't need to know your non-spoilers. Let's get to the spoilers. You said this was your favorite Marvel movie ever made.
Yeah, you know what? I think this takes the cake. My previous favorite movie was Ant-Man from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that Shang-Chi has surpassed it. I was in awe. I had a single tear very, dramatically roll down my face. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I could not get enough, and I would go back and see it again right now. Legitimately.
Yeah, so Shang-Chi opens with the title, right? Like, we open with Shang-Chi's mother telling Shang-Chi the Legend of the Ten Rings. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is throughout all of the marketing, I was under the impression that Michelle Yeoh, I hope I'm pronouncing these names right. If I am not, I am sorry. I've never heard a lot of these said out loud. But I have seen Michelle Yeoh in a bunch of things. She's amazing. Mm-hmm. But I thought that she was playing Shang-Chi's mom. Mm-hmm. And very quickly, we realized that she's not, because that is played by Fala Chen, who I don't know, but was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Mm-hmm. She's beautiful. She's talented. She was, so strong. And this is, jumping ahead a little bit, but I just have to give props. That fight scene with her and...
Wenwu.
Yeah,
Tony Leung
was just the most incredible thing I had ever seen.
That's my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah,
we haven't gotten to it yet, but that to me was the peak of the film. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into my thoughts on the finale in a minute, but and how Marvel movies do the same thing that we'll get into it later. But for now, I just want to call it Fala Chen. Incredible performance in all of the in that sequence and all of the flashbacks throughout the film. Really sells a lot of the heart of the movie and keeps you invested at times when the movie has to do the work of doing the explaining of the rings and stuff. Fala Chen's performance really sells a lot of the it keeps the emotional undercurrent running under that in a way that I thought was really nice.
Yeah.
But we meet Shang-Chi. He is going by the name Sean. Awkwafina will make fun of him later for how terrible a name change he did at the age of 14. And he's working as a valet. His best friend is Awkwafina. And they're parking cars. And the first thing we see them do is steal a car, drive insane around the streets of San Francisco, and then they never get to how that ended.
I think they just took it for a joyride. They didn't steal it. They just put it back.
Okay. But I'm sorry, you can't drive like that and get away with it.
They do it in Fast and Furious.
Yes, the pillar... No, I'm kidding. I don't really care.
No,
but it was just funny. I was like, I thought they were going to get arrested. I really thought they were going to get arrested and someone was going to have to bail them out and they're going to do that kind of... Because they do that, right? They do that, but they go to the bar with their friends and their friends dress them down for being valets, which is weirdly mean. And I was like, if they had gotten arrested on the joyride, their friend dressing them down for the way that they're living their life would make more sense.
Yeah.
But their friends just kind of do it over drinks passive aggressively. And I was like, why are you friends with this person?
Yeah, the drinks with friends bit was a little bit strange to me.
I appreciated it because when it came back at the end, it was fun for the post-credit sequence.
Sure. It's just...
Or the pre-credit sequence.
Yeah. It just... I don't know. It was a little bit odd how they did it. That's all.
It was just weird. I have friends who have real jobs, work 9 to 5s, and if I went out for drinks for them and they started to be like, you know what, Nerdy, it's time for you to grow up. It's time for you to get a real job. And what are you doing making YouTube videos and playing Pokemon on Twitch? I'd be like, what do you
Be like, I think I need new friends.
What do you mean? That's what I have a degree in musical theater. What did you think I was going to amount to?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that whole scene just I was like, and they kind of make the joke of like, you sound like my mom, and I was like, yeah, in a way that makes you unpleasant to be around.
Yeah. They definitely. I don't think they were supposed to be very good friends.
I really expected like it to be Awkwafina's character's Katie's sister, and that they would leave that scene and Shang would be like, God, like, and then Awkwafina would be like, yeah, it's my sister though, you know, what am I gonna do? Mm-hmm. But like they nope, that's their friend who's just mean to them at drinks.
Yeah.
At casual drinks.
Yeah. I was like, all right, cool.
But then they go out for karaoke, and I just want to go to karaoke.
I know. I really want to go to
Simu
karaoke
and
now.
Awkwafina. They looked like they were having so much fun.
I know. I want to go to karaoke.
Now, at this point, you'd think, when's the movie going to start? And it's literally right now, because the next thing that happens is a cute scene with Awkwafina's character's grandmother. But then they get on a bus to work and get attacked immediately.
Yeah, someone comes up and is like, "Get with the pendant." He's like, what? Mm-hmm. And then they just fully like attack him.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, they grab him, but he doesn't really do anything until the guy like smacks Awkwafina's like head into the like glass or the pole or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, and he's like, oh hell no! It was great. They tore that bus apart.
Yeah. But in a really nice way. Like, I appreciated... in a nice way. I appreciated how much of that action we got to watch.
Yeah.
And, like, the way that it was filmed in a way that a lot... And this is the first of many times throughout the movie where there were extended action sequences that weren't all jump cuts. The way that, like, Snake Eyes was, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciated getting to watch the action play out, and I had a lot of fun with it. I was like, like, this looks great. Yeah. And the actors really lived in the choreography of it in a nice way.
The action of this movie was top notch.
Yeah.
It was beautiful to watch, and everyone looked so, like, comfortable in it. No one looked like they were out of place, really. Mm-hmm. Like it felt really grounded.
Then we go to the middle of the movie, which is the like part of the movie to me where I don't remember the order of events very well, because I have two complaints about this movie, only two. But the first one is there's a lot of flashbacks that are cut into the movie pretty consistently.
Yeah.
In a way that like. I kind of, like, I know they go to Macau first to meet his sister, and then they end up at the compound, but there's so much information that's thrown at the audience in the middle of that, that when I think back to the movie now, I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Flashbacks were, yeah.
Yeah, and when we learned what, right?
Yeah.
Like, now, I'm like, I would have to watch this movie a few more times to remember the sequence of information that's doled out. Yes. And now that I've seen the movie, like, I understand it all.
Yes.
But, like...
Yeah.
It's like when you learn...
It's hard to plot out.
Yeah, like, I know that I know how to do math, right? But, like, I don't know if I learned how to add or subtract first.
Okay, sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But, like, in hindsight, like, I just know it.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that part of that is because a lot of the flashbacks in this movie do a thing where you see, like, a flashback, and then, like, 5 minutes later, it's the same flashback, but there's, like, 15% more information in it.
Yes, they do that a lot, where, it's... a flashback, and then a flashback that you've seen before, but they add a little bit more, or something is different, or they let you in on some other little tidbit, which, you know, sometimes works, which we talked about, but some of it is a little bit unnecessary, because there's a lot of flashbacks.
There's a lot, and there's also just a lot of flashbacks that are, like, the same flashback more than once.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And there were just a couple of times where, for the most part, the flashbacks really worked for me, especially, like I said, when it was about Fa Chen and when it was about Tony Leung as Wenwu. Like, their storyline would make a great movie, honestly. Yeah. Like, truly, like, there might be a more interesting movie in the story of Wenwu if you just made him the main character and, like, played him becoming king as like your prologue, first act, meeting her, falling in love, and then her death and his like revenge afterwards.
Yeah.
Like there's like a perfect arc for a very cool movie in there, and it is literally like the window dressing at the back of this film.
Yeah.
Because this film has so much it has to accomplish.
But that's what I was talking about in the non-spoiler chat, is that each character has a life and is fully fleshed out and like is so interesting and compelling. Like I think that the reason this movie was so touching and so powerful in the ways that it was is because you really feel for Wenwu. Like, you know, he's a terrible person at the beginning. He's a conqueror who takes what he wants because he can. And then he, you know, meets this woman and they have the most beautiful fight I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's a little spicy. Like I was like, all right, okay. Like
and they mimic that fight later with Shang-Chi and Wenwu.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that was like, this was so almost erotic the first time that it was weird that it was a father-son fight in the same like way, because they do there's this one look that they do in both fights, and the first time is really steamy, and the second time I was like, that's your dad.
Yeah, but I think that, like, for me, it felt different enough. Because I also had that initial feeling of, like, oh, is that weird? But then, I don't know.
I think the fact that we both had that momentary feeling, though, is what's funny to me.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think it's bad. It's, like, familial and, like, I get it.
Yeah.
It just was funny that, like, there is such a, like... The first fight between Wenwu and Zhang Li is so romantic.
Yeah.
That when they're imitating the like almost dance of it between the
it's
the
literally
father son.
A dance.
I just for a half a beat I was like, is this weird? And I was like, I'm gonna move on.
Yeah, that's fair. But he's like, you know, he falls in love with
Wenwu does.
Wenwu falls in love with
Zhang
Li. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. I could see this movie 6 times and I'll only remember half the names.
It's true.
That just goes for any movie.
The only franchise that you know the names of is Lord of the Rings.
And Harry Potter, yeah. Those are like the 2. And Aragon. Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Basically things that you read and watched between the age of like 12 and 14.
Or if you like put a dragon in it. That'll help.
There is a dragon in this.
I know. I feel like, you know
what? There is a dragon in this.
I feel like if I saw this one
That's
another
why
time...
this is your favorite Marvel movie. There's a dragon in it.
Shh, don't talk about it. Don't come for me like that.
Don't worry, we'll have a stuffed Great Protector as soon as we can find one.
No, but he's an amazing villain because
100%, yeah.
They have this fight and they fall in love and it's beautiful, and you find out that they got married and he put away the rings and she left her life, and they decided that like being together was more important, and she thought that there was good in him and that he could choose to embrace that instead. And while she's there, he can. But her loss is so devastating for him that he can't deal with it. And this happens to people. People are changed when they lose somebody. And the way that he changed with his interactions with his children, and the neglect and the hurt and the like hardening, it almost feels like, it was tragic. It was tragic, and it wasn't like this is the bad guy. You know what I mean? It's not like this is like Steppenwolf and he wants to just kill everybody for the sake of killing everybody.
Yeah, and they make it there's 2 things that they do throughout the film that make it extra tragic to me, right? The undercurrent of him hearing her calling to him to help is such a tragic, beautifully tragic thing for the villain, right? Mm-hmm. And he brings his children together. I think until they are like no, he is delusional, obviously, but in his mind he's saying like, I'm bringing you here so that we can go save your mom together. I think he's genuine about that.
Absolutely.
The other tragic thing that happens in this movie that makes the end significantly more interesting to me is that Wenwu and Zhang Li went to the where she's from, which is like this mystical land of Ta Lo, this village through a portal, and they went there and asked if Wenwu could come back with her to be there, and all of the bad things that happen in this movie would not have happened if the people of Ta Lo had been willing to forgive Wenwu for his past sins, but they reject him because of his past. And they don't, and unlike Zhang, they don't see that he has grown and that he is moving away and that he is stepping away from the Ten Rings, because he genuinely does step away from them.
Yeah, he doesn't touch them. He
steps away from his life. And if there is the movie doesn't touch on it very hard. Like, the movie doesn't get into it very much, but there is a real moment there where I was like, oh, like, part of the reason why this is happening is your lack of forgiveness in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? And what was weird about it to me is that at that point, Wenwu had never done anything to Ta Lo. So they were literally saying, well, you hurt those people over there, and we can never forgive you for that. So we're just going to... We're going to kick you out of here. And, you know, I'm not trying to say, like, you have to forgive people, right? I'm not saying
no,
that.
Especially because, like,
there are bad things that have happened in the world.
He was a murderer, right? Like, but it's why it's so powerful is because it's complicated.
Well, but there's also just there is a subtextual thing there of, like, there are consequences to grudges. Yes. And you know, like, and what's interesting about it to me in this film in particular is that none of the characters relating to that storyline are main characters. They're all people we barely know, and yet they have this, like, very important arc at the end of this movie because of this decision that they made to ban him because of his past. And then we meet Shang-Chi, who admits to having murdered someone, and he becomes the new, the new holder of the Ten Rings and the protector, and, you know, all of that stuff. And so there's just an interesting kind of there's a theme of forgiveness in this movie. And how do you forgive others? When should you forgive others? And when do you forgive yourself? That this movie gets into in a way that I was really surprised at how deep and complex it was.
Yeah.
I didn't expect this movie to be as just, like, incredibly layered.
Yeah. As
it was. And honestly, I think that on repeat viewings, there's going to be ways to dive into some of the especially just, like, some of the dialogue that isn't in the action sequences. There's going to be a lot to get into in this movie that I think is really interesting and beautiful. And it does, other than the final fight, which we'll talk about in a second, but the because of that, like, deeper narrative stuff, the same stuff that I love about Winter Soldier and that I love about Civil War, and the Marvel movies that I think get into relationship a little bit stronger, is in this movie, and that puts it in the top tier of Marvel for me. Even though, you know, there are a couple of things that, you know, aren't my favorite about it, but should we get into that?
Sure.
After we should talk about Abomination and Wonger in this.
Oh yeah.
They fight. It's quick. It's mostly fun. A joke.
Yeah.
That is a true cameo.
Yeah.
And there's another cameo. Trevor's back. Do you not know who Trevor is?
Trevor. Names.
What's so funny about this movie is that there is exactly one white person in this movie. There is exactly one person who would be named Trevor in the entire film.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I was like, names.
Although, actually, Ben Kingsley, I don't know that Ben Kingsley's white. Is he? I think Ben Kingsley, I might actually be wrong. I think he might actually be,
It says he's an English actor.
He's half white.
Okay.
I did want to get that right, but no. Remember when I said that she doesn't get names? Yeah, Trevor Slattery's back. The Mandarin. He played in Iron Man 3, which pissed the world off. Do y'all remember the internet discourse around Iron Man 3? That one was fun.
That movie is like a wisp of a cloud that I know I have witnessed, but I don't think about ever.
I like it. I like it more than other people. I'm a big Shane Black fan, though. I like his style of filmmaking. And so Iron Man 3 worked for me quite a bit. And I know that there are a lot of people for whom it doesn't work. I know that there are a lot of people who the Mandarin Trevor Slattery twist was a big reason why it didn't work. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice twist. I've always thought the Mandarin to be a kind of racist depiction. And I think that what they did to make fun of their own depiction of the Mandarin in this movie to like soften that and acknowledge that it's not an okay past and that it was a past literally written by white people. Like, this movie goes out of its way to be like, yes, Marvel Comics written by white people did some racist stuff in the past and we're going to move on from it, which I thought was smart.
Yeah.
But Trevor Slattery's in way more of this movie than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the one scene, and then he like there.
He sticks around. He's got some great jokes. He's fantastic.
He's funny. They used him well. They didn't overuse the bit.
Yeah.
Which they could have really easily.
It was just enough. It was all that we needed, and yeah.
Well, and I think they did a clever thing with him in the final fight where he's there, and in the moment where I feel like Awkwafina's character would have been the one to make the joke, they let her get a little bit more emotional by giving the like joke to Trevor Slattery, which I thought was a smart move because it allowed there to be a little bit of levity and kind of the Marvel brand in the final fight, while also at the same time allowing the Awkwafina character, who is the comedic relief of the movie, to not have to like totally take her emotional arc out of the end of the film, and allowed Awkwafina to have like a really great like final emotional beat.
Yeah.
That I really appreciated.
Yeah.
But having said that, Trevor Slattery leads them to Talo. Wenwu is getting to Talo. We're all going to Talo. There's pendants. You saw the movie. You know how they get there. But then it becomes a big CGI fight. And I have been on record. I want to be very clear before I say this. I think Black Panther is an amazing movie. And I love Ryan Coogler. I have always been of the mind that the thing I don't like about Black Panther is the final fight is very like, and we're going to have the fight over here where Killmonger and T'Challa have this really important, really well choreographed fight sequence that you care a lot about, and then everybody else is going to be on a field somewhere with CGI. And in Black Panther, I'm like, I care about the Killmonger T'Challa fight, and I love it, and I don't care about the rhinos and the Dora Milaje on the field. And I just never have, right?
That's where we're different.
This movie has the same thing where there's no emotional stakes to me in the CGI, right? Like, the CGI villains are... this movie saves it a little bit in the twist of that fight, but, like, the big CGI fight is less interesting to me in terms of the movie as Wenwu versus Shang-Chi is.
Sure.
So much so that this movie isn't even interested in showing us really who, like, the souls are getting stolen from. There's just people dead. There's 2 times where we actually get to see who it's from. One was the death dealer that trained Shang-Chi, who I thought was going to be more important in this movie than they were, considering they were in so much of the marketing.
Yeah.
They had a great fight, though. And then was the was it Kwang Bo or something like that? Who was he taught Awkwafina how to use the arrows.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find that these movies, this movie had this like, Guangbo. Yeah, not Kwang. Played by Yuen Wah, who was fantastic. Really, like he only had a few lines, but all of them were perfect.
Yeah.
I really feel like there's times where these movies get like really big at the end when there's like a storyline that's a little bit smaller that I care a lot about, and this movie did that again, and it's just not my favorite thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's like it's not a bad thing. It was still good, and the fighting, it was great, and like the action was fun, but like I don't really understand it because it's just CGI. And then when the big dragon creature comes out, the fight from there on the fight with Wenwu is so good and so emotionally driven that when they're just like kind of shooting big ice spikes and stuff at the tentacle monster, I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, see, I like it.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's fun, but like it doesn't have the emotional weight of when Wenwu dies. I'm like crying. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Totally. I don't agree with you. I really liked that you had both scales that were both, I thought, very intertwined. The fact that, when Wu is, like, breaking down the door and letting in the demons, which are then actively, like, going to the village, and they need to be far off. Otherwise, they are literally stealing souls to bring to the big, like, bringer of death or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. To strengthen it, to bring it through the wall. And I thought that, like, it was really well connected in a big ring.
Would you say one of 10 rings?
There are probably at least 10 rings in this movie. But I thought that having it all like be so interconnected really held it together for me. Because I know what you mean in Black Panther, and I enjoyed the end of Black Panther, even though I know there are people who like don't love that. It doesn't bother me. But I think Black Panther, you know, like they go off and they do their own thing, and then they have the big fight over there, and they don't really affect one another.
Oh, they're totally unrelated.
They're totally completely unrelated.
So much so that like if one like, and what's interesting is it's so much so that the only one of the 3 fights in that moment that actually matter is from Sherlock. Oh my God, what is his name?
Sherlock. Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman shooting down the weapons escaping Wakanda is the only actual one of the 3 fights that in the moment matters in terms of the plot. The other 2 are important long term, but in the short term, Martin Freeman's fight is the most important one. Yeah. Because if the weapons get away, you're never getting them back, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas in this movie, like everything is immediate together, and I do agree with that. I also think that the beat that this movie does differently, that I think makes it more interesting, is the moment where Razor Fist and Shang-Chi's sister agree to work together. Yeah. Out of the necessity. And I was like, oh, okay, so like you're humanizing these characters at the end by being like, yes, they're the villains, but also like they're not lunatics.
They're not mindless.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, and Marvel is definitely guilty of this, but I feel like most movies are. You have the mindless evil henchmen who, even if it's not in their best interest, will still come at the hero when they know they can't take them. You know what I mean? Or will fight to the end for no real apparent reason. They just don't seem to have a will of their own. Yeah. And that's what I mean. All the care that is taken with the characters, even the characters who have hardly a part in the movie, are like it's really impressive what they've done. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that.
I love the end fight. I was sitting there in tears from like, you know, from Wenwu dying, having his soul sucked out. And that was the thing that I couldn't mention in the non-spoiler chat, was the visualization of the soul, which is like a silly thing, you know, and like Harry Potter did it and it was beautiful, but like this one, I was like floored. I was like, this is like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I was just sitting there like gawking, and it was so sad because you're like, no, because you want him to have redemption because you know he has it in him, right? Because he's been there before. He had his kids, and you know, Simulio is like, your family needs you, and you're like, yeah, and then he dies, and you're like, no, like, it hurts.
Yeah, it's such a good emotional climax for the film.
Yes.
Like, the death of Wenwu is really well handled, and I just really appreciated that a lot.
Oh my God, and when the dragon was gonna get its soul, I was like, no, they don't kill the dragon. It was so sad. And it was like, I don't know, I know it was all CGI, but it was like, there was like weight behind it. Like, the struggle felt like it was...
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that.
The CGI was really incredible. Well done. Like, I am literally in awe of this movie. I love the dragon scale, like, weapons and armor. Although I have to say, honestly, I think that Shang-Chi and there's X's, and I am unsure of how to pronounce them. I'm so sorry. The sister?
Jialing.
Jialing. I actually thought that their, like, armor was a little lackluster.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought Shang-Chi looked great.
Oh, he looked great.
I was a little confused as to why hers was the only one that was white.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, is the
dragon was also white, and everyone had red scales. There was a little bit of, like, scale confusion to me, as I was like, where... Are you dyeing the scales?
Yeah.
Are all of your weapons made out of, like, the scales specifically around its eyes and tail?
Yeah, like, but I think they're from a different dragon.
Or they're like that dragon's scales get red over time and then it sheds its skin, because most reptiles do that. Well, no, they just shed their skin, then they use, because they're not like ripping scales off the dragon.
No.
It's shedding, and then they're using the scales from its shed skin, right?
And they darken.
Maybe, but then why was her armor white?
Yeah,
Also,
I don't
really
know.
lucky, really lucky that both of those suits fit so
Perfectly.
well.
I know.
After for the person you've never met.
Yeah. Yeah, your mom asked us. Also, I don't know how their mom asked that, like, had those left behind for them.
What do you mean?
Well, because the aunt is like, yeah, your mother asked us to, like, give these to you, like, and I was like, how?
What
She
do you
was
mean?
banished.
No. She wasn't
gone.
banished. He was not allowed in.
No, they said, like, they were, like, locked out. Like, they were like, you
No,
are not allowed here.
He was locked out.
So she just went for, like, family visits every now and again?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, I don't know. It seems weird that when your children are, like, 7 and, like, I don't know, 3 or 4, you're like, hey, could you make sure that when my kids grow up, they get these, like, armor shirts? It was just, like, that was a bit odd.
If you grew up in a culture where that mattered, though. Like, yeah. But that's a family tradition, right? Like,
sure,
if your family
okay.
has had the tradition of wearing... Because everyone in that town, whether you're a man, woman, child, you have your dragon armor for when shit goes down, right?
But they were all wearing robes.
No, but then when the shit starts to go down, they all got into their... They were all suited up in the red scale stuff.
Were they? I thought they were in robes.
No, they all had different things.
Oh, okay.
Michelle Yeoh's was more of a robe.
Okay.
For sure. But, like, they all had armor.
Okay.
For the big fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is more, like, family tradition. Like, I don't think she was like, I'm pretty sure that one day my children are going to have to fight this thing. Yeah. I think she was like, please, when my children do come here, make sure that they get the family clothing that they would get if they grew up here.
Yeah.
Right? I think that makes sense.
In case I die. Knock on wood. Like...
Yeah. Also, that scene
was
tragic.
Devastating. Like...
That hit hard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my mom was beat to death by a bunch of men in front of me. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yep. That was...
Still not as dark as last week's episode of What If, but,
Yep.
Height. Marvel's letting themselves get a little bit adult lately, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun.
Without, like, going full DC, but...
Yeah.
Should we get into some... They win. Spoiler, they win. Shang-Chi wins.
Yeah. Shang-Chi gets the rings, and then Wong shows up and is like, hey, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, we should talk about that. So Shang-Chi, like, manages to steal the rings through Kung Fu.
Steal them? Oh. Yeah, he steals, like, half of them. And then he steals all of them. Yeah. And then he chucks them back at his dad. And then his dad dies.
What's interesting about this... Okay, so we should talk about the rings. Because here's the thing we have not talked about in either the spoiler chat or the non-spoiler chat, is the rings. Mm-hmm. I think the rings are going to divide the audience. I think that there are going to be a lot of comics fans who are upset that the rings don't function the way that they do in the comics.
Oh, do they not?
No, the rings in the comics are actually 10 rings, one on each finger. And each ring does something different. So, like, one ring shoots ice blasts, one is, like, mind control, one is, like, fireballs, right? And so the Mandarin in the comics has 10 rings that each have a different magical ability.
Okay.
And these rings are very different.
Yeah.
And what I will say about this is I think that they're less interesting individually because they've kind of done what, like, Doctor Strange does, where, like, Doctor Strange's magic has become, like, orange circles. Mm-hmm. And they've kind of been like, all right, all of Doctor Strange's magic is, like, geometric shapes in orange, like, energy, mm-hmm. right? Whereas in the comics, Doctor Strange can do anything. Like, it's wild what he can do. Mm-hmm. This movie has turned Shang-Chi's power into orange energy beams as well, mm-hmm. a little bit. But what I like about it is that this version of the 10 rings is more tied into the martial arts, which is what Shang-Chi's known for. Because Shang-Chi is not the wielder of the 10 rings in the comics. Like, Shang-Chi doesn't have superpowers. Mm-hmm. He is just the master of Kung Fu. He is, like, the greatest, other than maybe Iron Fist, which is kind of the weird thing about Marvel, is there are two great masters of Kung Fu. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Shang-Chi should always kick Iron Fist, but Iron Fist has superpowers and Shang-Chi doesn't, right? So the weird thing about this movie is that now Shang-Chi is, like, a powered hero instead of being a street-level hero in New York who just does Kung Fu really well.
Yeah.
Like, really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be... Because here's the thing. I don't think non-powered Shang-Chi fits into the MCU very well. I think that the rings allow him to play on the level of this world's Spider-Man, this world's Captain Carter, I guess at this point.
And it's tough. Like, that's what the problem is with Black Widow and Hawkeye and those people.
Yeah,
like,
the joke is like...
They should be dead.
Yeah.
You know, and so I understand what they're doing with Shang-Chi. Like, but the other thing that I loved is that we got to see in so many fight scenes, Simu's like, just martial arts prowess without the power.
Yeah,
you know what 100%. I mean? Like, we got that, which is really nice. And now that he has the 10 rings, like you said, it does allow him to play on that level, that Marvel level. Especially because we find out that the rings are like calling
to deep space. Let's get into some post-credit sequences because that's all we got left, and this has already been 35 minutes.
Sorry,
it's fine. No, this is the point of the spoiler chats, right? The first post-credit sequence. Back at the bar. No. Before the credits. Before the credits are back at the bar. Wong, they're telling their friends the story, and they're like, "Oh yeah, last time." The girl's like, "Last time I was not a good friend, so you're making fun of me." And they're like, "No, we actually just
did save the world."
Also, they're like they're like 2 weeks away from the event, and when they talk about people dying, they're like, "Yeah, we lost a lot of good people."
Yeah,
and I'm
like
a lot of people died in front of you, including your dad.
Yep.
Like you just watched your dad die, and they're like, a lot of good people. Anyway, jokey joke, and I was like, that's okay. You could have said it was like 6 months ago. You could have said they've like moved on. Why did they leave Ta Lo? We don't know. But Wong shows up, and then in the post-credit sequence, they're in, I'm assuming, the Sanctum Sanctorum. We don't really know where they are.
What it looks like.
They're in a library. They might be back at Carmitage from the Doctor Strange movie. And who is on video call? Who's on the Star Wars hologram call? The blue, it kind of looked like it.
Yeah.
We get some Captain Marvel action, and we get some Bruce Banner, not the Hulk. And what's most interesting here is Bruce Banner. He's put on a little weight. He's a little bit heftier, a little bit of gray, long hair. He's not as clean cut as the Smart Hulk that when we last saw him in Endgame. And his arm is still in a cast. And it looks like it's been a while. It looks like snapping his fingers with that gauntlet on. You know, he survived it, unlike Tony Stark, but it's had an effect on him.
Yeah. Which, you know, I think it should. When actions have consequences, it makes for an infinitely more exciting and interesting universe, you know?
It's also tough to think, like, what they would do with Hulk from here on out.
Yeah.
Like, they've kind of done everything.
Yeah.
There's not, like, a bigger person for Hulk to fight than Thanos.
Yeah. They're gonna pass the gauntlet, I think, for sure.
To Jessica Walters.
Yeah. And,
Isn't that She-Hulk's name? I think it's Jessica Walters.
But yeah, so they find out that these rings are really, 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 really old, and that they are now emitting like a signal into space, and so something's gonna show up for those rings, I think.
It's Kang. Or Mephisto. It's either Kang or Mephisto. Or Galactus. What if it's Galactus?
I don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't know who. Honestly, with Marvel right now, it could be anyone. Yeah. It could literally be anyone. It could be Adam Warlock, and I'd be like, cool, dope. There isn't... Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Shang-Chi that's kind of interesting because of the where they're using the rings. Shang-Chi doesn't have, like, Shang-Chi's universal threat. Like, a lot of his, like...
He doesn't have, like, an adversary, like a...
No, he doesn't have, like, a galactic adversary. Because Shang-Chi isn't a galactic-level superhero. He's on the streets of New York, beating up crime with his amazing kung fu, right? So they kind of can do anything with this, because it's not going to be a Shang-Chi character. Yeah. Because there isn't a Shang-Chi character that fits this role. Right. Unless there's, like, some weird comic where he goes to space that I missed. But, you know, the way they're using the 10 rings, they can really do whatever they want from here on out. So I think that whoever this beacon is calling out to is...
Maybe it's calling the Eternals.
No, they're already on Earth.
I know.
Yeah. Although it could call a Celestial. I mean, you know, Shang-Chi could appear again in a month in the Eternals. But I think that they're leaving it open so that it's going to depend on whatever movie they want Shang-Chi for next and what galactic threat best fits the other heroes in that movie. Because here's the thing. I honestly do not think that we will see another Shang-Chi solo movie on this level again. I think that like Spider-Man, like all of these movies have done, there's always like they're bundling heroes, right? Everything is like is a team up. Mm-hmm. So I think that we'll get Shang-Chi and versus. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have our post-credit scenes.
The final credit scene, which I loved, but also it made me giggle. Yeah. So Zhiliang, I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm gonna admit I do not think I'm pronouncing it right. Shang-Chi's sister is now taken over as the leader of the Ten Rings, and is going to do crime, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what they made it seem like. She took over, she sat in her big fancy chair, and it pans out on this shot of like the castle that belonged,
the compound.
Yeah, that belonged to her father, and she's put a lot of work into it. She hired a bunch of artists.
So many graffiti artists.
Just graffiti everything. Looks like they're putting in solar panels.
It's such a funny, like, because it's such a cool moment, because they're like trying to show that things are different now under her leadership, but it is a comedic amount of graffiti for how long she's been there, ostensibly.
Yeah.
Like, because everything else is still under repair, and I'm like, the
graffiti came first.
The graffiti came before the repairs? Mm-hmm. Like, you could have fixed things and then graffitied.
Not priorities.
No, they're like, all right, we're going to paint every wall.
Yeah.
And then we're going to install satellite dishes.
Yeah.
It just cracked up. It was a cool panel, because I get it. Like, they're showing, like, visually that it's different under her leadership, and look at how things are changing for the Ten Rings. The Ten Rings are now a modern organization. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, wow, it's a lot of graffiti.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like, very, like, Western style graffiti.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interestingly. Mm-hmm. A lot of the graffiti, and I'm reading way too much into the graffiti of that moment. It just really cracked me up in the theater. Yeah. Where I was like, it didn't look like a lot of like Asian art inspired graffiti. It was very Western styled. Yeah. Which was interesting to me, especially because like Shang-Chi was in America for most of his adult life, but she wasn't. She was always in Asia.
Yeah, and she was like, did America make you soft or whatever?
Yeah. So just the style of the graffiti was interesting to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was just an interesting. It's gonna be fun to see them come back, and I'm kind of hopeful they're gonna put a twist on it, and the Ten Rings are gonna be like a good guy organization.
Yeah,
I think the potential's there, because she was on board to help fight. She might be in it for the money.
Yeah, it might be more like neutral. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want Shang-Chi to have to fight his sister.
No, they need to stick together, because they got nothing now.
They got all they got is each other.
The mom is dead, the dad is dead. It's so sad.
Yeah, and she doesn't have an Aquafina.
Exactly. So what's she gonna do?
I mean, she can buy Aquafina. You can get it in most stores. It's a pretty readily available bottle of water.
Jesus Christ. No, she's got the one-armed man.
Razor Fist.
That's it. Mm.
Oh, man. Don't let him fist you.
He has another arm.
Y'all, that's going to be it for this video. It's been too long. No one has watched all this way through except for me when I go back and judge every single thing that I do on camera. If you like this video, hit the like button. Leave a comment down below. If you don't like this video, hit the dislike button. That's what it's there for. And leave mean comments down below, because the algorithm god is hungry, and we must feed her. As always, you know what I liked? I liked that they took a moment to be like, the great protector, our dragon. Yeah, she gave us her scales. They like made a moment to be like, it's a lady dragon. And then the sister's like,
yeah, I'm into it.
Well, no, but it was, and I'm kind of making a joke, but it was important because she like wasn't allowed to train. Yeah. And then when she gets there, all the women are training, and she's like,
yeah, she's like,
my people. I don't understand why she went back.
I belong.
It's weird that she didn't stay in Talo now, but whatever.
Yeah.
They'll answer it in the sequel. If you want to follow us over on Twitch, you can. I'm over at twitch.tv/nerdynightly.
I'm over at twitch.tv/ClarishDrakaris.
Wait, you are?
Yes.
What do you do over there?
I stream the Vidya games.
The Vidya games. You can also support us over on Fanhouse. Fanhouse.app. Oh, I'm never going to get that right.
Fanhouse.app/nerdynightly, where, you would have found out our thoughts even earlier because we got out of the movie theater and we were like, so good. There's also, behind the scenes and other fun stuff. I mean, we're funny. We're hilarious.
As always, y'all. My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarus.
Do something nerdy tonight, you dang nerds.
Bye.